What's up, guys? Today we are going to be revisiting an old classic from a lot of our childhoods. We're going to be talking about the movie Heavyweights. I just recently rewatched this, and it's been a while since I've seen this. This was one of my favorite movies as a child, but now as an adult, when I see this movie, I kind of look at it through a completely different set of eyes that makes me think very differently about this movie now that I'm a lot older. So I'm gonna get into that and explain why, and we're gonna go all the way through the film and get and like deeply analyze it and dissect it a little bit. And also, before we get into this, I understand we're talking about a children's film. I apologize in advance for any foul language. So just a heads up, that's just kind of how I talk. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. The movie opens up with the beginning of summer vacation for our main character, Jerry, and they waste no time letting you know where the movie is going. He misses the bus, and all within the opening credits, they demonstrate him being out of shape and unathletic, and so fat that he can chug a full pitcher of lemonade, which it is a hot day. I'll give the guy a break on that. He arrives home and finds his parents speaking with some stranger, and turns out they are wanting to send him to a summer camp. And they're watching the video. He starts to open up to the idea about it, but then he sees that it's a weight loss camp, and we get an early glance at some of these kids' attitudes.
You're fatter than I am. Why don't you go to the camp?
His dad tells him, look, we got to send you to the camp. We got to get your weight under control, which that's all bullshit. If your parents send you to a summer camp, it's because they want a break from you, and there is further proof in this movie to back up that statement later on. Against Jerry's wishes, he is sent to the camp on a plane where he meets Roy, who kind of warms him up to the idea of, going to the camp and it actually being a whole lot of fun. And when they get off the plane and wait for the bus, there's a bunch of other kids who have been going to this camp for multiple years, and I immediately notice, unless these kids were 400 plus pounds when they started going to this camp, they haven't lost jack shit in weight, and their parents just continue to keep sending them back. And then they get picked up by one of the chaperones, Pat, which he's a cool guy. Could see why these kids look up to him. So he's a fun character to hang around with. We arrive at the camp, and for some unknown reason, Sims is there to creep out all the kids arriving on the bus, unless this is hidden foreshadowing for how fucked up this place really is. Then we meet Tim, who is another chaperone for these kids, and all the kids are ganging up and picking on him, poking fun at the guy, simply because he's the only person who's at this camp who actually lost fucking weight and got in shape and stuck to a program, which is ironic because these kids hate being made fun of about their weight later on in the movie. Also, as I'm talking about this, looking at this kid, I have to Google if he is Andy Milonakis or not. And then poor Pat, he just turns into a 14-year-old boy when he is approached by the new nurse, and he just chokes up and can't spit out a proper sentence. We then get to the chipmunk bunk where Jerry is assigned, where we meet Josh, who is pretty much the funny guy of the bunk, and we find out they run a whole secret operation where they sneak in and hide a whole bunch of junk food and candy. Which, I mean, at this point in the movie, there's no reason to be mad at them. I mean, these current camp owners, they don't give a shit, so hey, whatever. After showing a quick glance at the kids having some fun jumping off the blob, they're all gathered in to be addressed by the camp owners just to find out that they have sold the camp, and the kids are all distraught, and obviously they know this means a lot of their fun is about to go away. And now it's time. We get introduced to our man of the hour, Tony Perkis, who is played to perfection by Ben Stiller. And when I was a kid, I related and sympathized with these kids. But now that I'm an adult, after hearing Tony give this speech, I mean, I kind of get where the man's coming from. He has a vision. He put a lot of money into this place. He hired a whole staff. He even got a cameraman to film this infomercial. The guy has a dream. He wants to sell a successful infomercial about his weight loss program. He's even trying to be cool and nice to the kids and compliment them, and he literally says, I see potential in you kids. And he is met with countless eye rolls and sighs, and I'm thinking, like, look, you assholes, my man's just trying to make a living. You guys were sent here to supposedly lose weight anyway, Like, you guys just have to hang out there for a couple months, just kind of stick with this program, lose a little weight, get a little healthy, and then when you leave, you can go back to just being fat asses. Like, just give my man a break here. He doesn't need all your shitty attitudes. Just at this point in the movie, I honestly don't see any reason why these kids should just immediately hate Tony. He's there to do what he is supposed to do. And after his speech, we get back to the bunk, and Pat is reassigned, basically to be a helping hand, and he's pretty much on janitor duty at this point, so that the new Perkis team, the new staff, they can take over as the chaperones, counselors hired by Tony. And Pat starts to kind of turn into a big whiner like all the kids because he doesn't get to go to camp and have fun. Like, man, this isn't a free vacation. You're an adult. You got to do some damn work too. And in this same scene, we get introduced to Lars. And look, I like Lars. He likes to have a good time. He takes his job very seriously. And he's quick to let these kids know that he's not going to put up with any other bullshit.
I am Lars.
Lars? What kind of name is that? Where are you from?
Far away.
The next morning, it's time for the kids to start getting into some workout regimens and get weighed in and get their weight loss goal for the end of the summer.
You've broken my camera!
Now we get to a baseball game between Camp Hope and Camp MVP, and Tim immediately tries to get Tony to call the game off and tell him forcing these kids to play sports isn't going to help them get any better at this. Yeah, well, neither is the kids sitting on their asses all day. And as expected, the kids get dominated and embarrassed during the baseball game, but at least we get some good physical comedy out of it.
Take me out, please!
Eventually, a bunch of the kids end up going to the nurse's office, and she asks what's going on, and this kid has the nerve to say we're Perkisizing. Like, how the fuck is it Tony's fault that you kids have never caught a ball or ran a day in your life? We get back to the chipmunk bunk where Tony suspects the kids have been cheating on their diet and finds all of their hidden foods and treats that we saw them hide earlier in the film.
Oh, look! A deli meat!
Even after Tony busts them, Josh decides to still poke the bear and attempts to make a joke out of Tony.
Oh, I didn't know I was messing with a man.
The next morning we come to find Josh is missing and his bunk is empty, and this is actually really hilarious watching all of these rumors run rampant, even to the point where the cook, who's an adult male, at least in his 30s, telling all these kids that their friend is dead.
Sorry to hear about your little friend, Josh. He's dead.
After seeing a lot of prison movies over the years, it's actually quite great the way that they capture all this stuff. They do a really good job of portraying the camp as a prison at this point. I gotta give them props for that. Jerry writes a letter to his grandmother so he can vent to somebody, because he even tried to call his dad and let him know what's going on, and his dad didn't want to hear any of it.
I did not send you to go-kart camp.
Further backing up my statement earlier that they don't want these kids home during the summer. They don't give a fuck what they're going through right now. Tony has arranged to dance in an effort to embarrass the boys, which I admit it's kind of a fucked up tactic. But you know, desperate times call for desperate measures. Nothing else is working. I guess you might as well try it. Keep in mind, Tony has an end game and has put a lot of money and thought into this camp. Now, I do like the way this scene plays out. You know, the kids, they actually build up quite a bit of confidence and they end up getting to dance with the girls by the end of this scene. So I'm like, okay, good for the kids, good for them. They built up a little bit of self-confidence. But Tony is quick to shut it down when he realizes his plan backfired. That night, the kids are all asleep when all of a sudden Josh reappears and explains his dad is a lawyer and he was able to get Josh back into the camp. And I'm like, why the fuck would you want to go back to the camp? It sounds like you had a great time the whole time you weren't here.
It was incredible. First I went to got that all-you-can-eat meal. I closed the place.
The kids decide to break into Tony's cabin, I'm assuming to try and retrieve some of the food he took from their bunk earlier in the movie. But you know damn well Tony threw all that shit away. He's not holding it and eating it to himself. But no luck, they found no food and they barely escape quick enough before Tony is able to catch them snooping around his stuff. They come across one of their bunkmates who somehow snuck in a burger, and turns out the guy who sold them out earlier in the film is sneaking them in food and making money off of it. So hey, he's a smart guy. He's got kind of his own little side hustle going on. Now it's time to start filming Tony's infomercial, and we're doing the first official weigh-ins for the kids. And he discovers the kids are just gaining more and more weight, and he is quickly reaching his breaking point. He even has a bit of a mental breakdown.
Well, it's not my fault. It's their fault. That's right. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault. You have failed, and you will pay.
And as a result of the kids all cheating on their diets, Tony enforces a 20-mile hike the next day. This is where Pat jumps in and tries to tell Tony it's a bad idea and not healthy. But Tony is quick to cut him off. Which, yes, this next line, it is a dick thing to say to somebody.
Oh, healthy. Ooh, the fat man is gonna tell me what's healthy.
But Tony does make a point. Like, Pat never gave a shit about these kids' health before. Like, now all of a sudden that they're getting put through the ringer, he wants to step up and say something. We get a nice scene between Jerry and Pat, where Pat opens up about his insecurities, and Jerry is there to cheer him up and comfort him, which, also another nice scene. It's nice to see these two kind of build a bond throughout the film. Then we get to the big hike the next day, and as expected, it's a big struggle for the kids. But also, back at the camp, the adults are trying to come up with a way to get rid of Tony. They bring up the possibility of child welfare maybe being able to step in. But I mean, what do you expect child welfare to do? He's not physically assaulting these kids. I mean, he's just forcing them to do physical activity, which is what they were technically sent there for. They're then approached by Kenny, the cameraman, who says Tony owes him a lot of money and he's going to kill him. This is where the movie starts to get very dark. Pat actually goes to Kenny and tries to put a hit on Tony. Like, are you fucking kidding? Are you serious? Like, it didn't show him actually ask Kenny to kill him, but it's pretty obvious. They cut back and just says, oh, we couldn't make a deal. Kenny wants too much money. Like, yeah, no shit. Do you psychos not realize what you just asked that man to do? And then in the next scene, Tony's got the kids on top of a mountain where they're meditating and stretching, and Josh just out of nowhere says, hey, let's push them off the mountain. Like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is going on here?
I say we push him. There's no jury in the world that could convict us.
Like, has the man really done anything to deserve to be murdered? But that's the thing at the top of everybody's mind here. The kids then decide to play a trick on Tony, and you can see when the kids say they're ready to get with the program, he's quick to trust the kids and becomes very nice to them, because he's like, alright, they're ready to get with the program. But of course they try to pull this prank on him, where Tony does end up finally actually putting his hand on one of the kids, Josh. But honestly, when someone tries to shove their big ass in your face, I mean, I would do the same thing. But Tony takes the bait and chases Josh, and he ends up falling into a hole. And you would think, alright, maybe some authority figures are going to show up, and Tony might lose the camp for supposed endangering children. But no, these kids are fucked up. They actually tie him up and lock Tony up in an electrified prison. And they even kidnap Lars and all the other Team Perkis members. They tie them up to trees and just leave them for dead. And then the adults who find out about this, they should be the voice of reason, which at first they kind of are, but then it doesn't take much for them to just decide that they're going to side with the kids and keep Tony prisoner and keep this kidnapping going. That's how fucked up this movie just turned out of nowhere. I don't understand what happened. And then I guess after you imprison somebody, it's time to go party. And poor Lars, he ended up getting Stockholm Syndrome and had to switch teams after being stranded in the woods for hours.
I am with you. I love you.
And there was even a small thing in the scene that kind of bothered me during the whole party. Like, Pat's looking down at everybody having a good time, getting their grub on, and he's ready to go down and have himself a good time too. But then the nurse Julie's like, no, Pat, stay here with me. Like, oh, now you care about weight loss and shit? Like, well, now that I'm potentially gonna fuck you, I don't want you to get any fatter. So I can't have that. The next morning, Pat all of a sudden has an epiphany.
From now on, each of us is going to be in charge of their own diets. We all have to learn some self-control.
Like, seriously, now it's time to start caring about the children's health and about weight loss. Like, okay, he's saying the same thing that Tony was trying to do. Why don't these kids all of a sudden hate and turn on Pat now? We then get a quick montage of the kids doing what they should have been doing this whole entire time they were at camp. Then it's Parents' Day. They show them a videotape of Tony shouting and being aggressive with the kids. But of course, the parents have no knowledge of the kids being assholes and uncooperative and, oh yeah, kidnapping and imprisoning their camp owner. Tony is able to outsmart guard Nicholas, I guess, is what we'll call him. He's on guard to keep Tony locked up, but Tony's able to outsmart him and get away. Then during this video that they're showing all the parents, Nurse Julie has this line where she says, "Your child could potentially be hurt due to Tony's program." Basically, they are all playing victim now, but last I checked, Tony didn't do anything that holds a candle to what all you fuckers did to him. And poor Tony, he's just been pushed to full-on insanity at this point, and all the parents are just ready to have Tony removed from the camp, to the point where they even physically assault him. And I'm not sure how Tony took himself out with all these backflips. It was kind of a lame way for him to go out, if you ask me, but I guess he can at least have a little dignity on his way out, saying he took himself out. Pat is then assigned to take over the camp for the rest of the summer. That's when our main talking point, Tony Perkis, exits the film. And even though I've talked about how evil these kids are and how fucked up this camp is, I mean, it's still a good time seeing these kids compete in the Apache relay and end up winning in the end and Pat getting the girl. It had an overall happy ending. I mean, it is a children's movie, so by the end, you walk away with a feel-good ending. Just as an adult, this turned into almost a horror movie for poor Tony Perkis, and I sympathize with him a lot watching this film as an adult. Yeah, guys, that was just me having a little bit of fun with this movie. I wanted to analyze it, and when I had these thoughts in my head, I was like, it's worth talking about. Let's do a video about it. Just a quick little fun one I wanted to do. I still love the movie. It still cracks me up every time I see it. I had a good time talking about this. Hey, go watch it and comment down below if you feel the same way or if you picked up on anything I missed. I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like, and if you're not already, go ahead and subscribe so you'll be notified of any future content.